Hi, everybody. I'm George, and this is the best little horror house in Philly, the show where we talk about the best horror movie ever made, according to our guest at least. And I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest. You might know him as Spoon, the Spoon Man, Mitchy Two Spoons, Night Spoon, Dorito Kid, Mr. Slice, or even just Mitch. He's a birthday boy and one of the hosts of the Doughboys. Please welcome Mike Mitchell. Welcome, pal.
Hey, thanks for having me. You listening off those nicknames makes me think of how, like, the show's gone on for too long.
No. Hey, I love it every time you get a new one, man.
I'm excited to be here. A long time in the making. I'm happy to finally be on.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
Well, we're thrilled to have you on here, and this is something that I have been trying to put in motion for a while, just because you've talked about horror a little bit on your own show, Doughboys, but it's always in the context of like, this scared the crap out of me as a kid. Like The Exorcist, I know you've talked about. You've mentioned Child's Play, which is the movie we're talking about today. So I'm curious, sort of, what it was like growing up, like your relationship to horror, and sort of if that's changed as you've gotten older.
Man, yeah. So, I mean, it definitely has changed, just because I don't think that I can ever have like the fear I once had as a child. I mean, I still get myself freaked out by some movies, like if I watched a Conjuring or something alone, I think I'd still be kind of freaked out. But just that complete fear, and I'd be paralyzed. I wouldn't be able to sleep in my own bedroom. Like I slept between my mom and my dad for way too long. All the way up till graduation in high school. I was just always so afraid of ghosts. Or, I mean, I'm an 80s kid. I was born in 82. So, I mean, I don't know if you can really say you're an 80s kid, but my childhood was just filled with like Jason and Freddy and Chucky.
Yeah, right in the prime of it.
Yeah, some of the big hitters came in around there, and they really scared the shit out of me. My birthday is around Halloween, so we'd always go to like a haunted hayride or something.
Oh, that's fun.
Or we like have people over and they would dress up for Halloween. And I remember like Mike Green down the street would come dressed as like Freddy Krueger, and all the older kids would just try to scare me. You know what I mean? Like they would show me stuff that would scare me.
That's what you gotta do.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, it was just that sort of thing of, and I was a kid that was like, you could scare pretty easy. I was afraid of like watching Gremlins when I was really young. Like Gremlins kind of freaked me out, the first one.
Yeah.
And then I finally got over that fear a little bit. And then when I go to my friends, the Tufo's house, and their house was supposedly haunted. Ooh. And the mom would tell stories about the house being haunted. And then like later that night, we'd watch like Troll. Like Troll would be on, and Troll scared me so much. It's funny because Troll 2 is like, they made a movie like the worst movie of all time or whatever it's called.
The best worst movie ever made, I think.
The best worst movie ever made. And I saw the opening of that movie at my next door neighbor's house, and I was like so scared. I was so afraid of Troll 2, which is seen as like such a horrible movie. But I always I was always terrified, but interested in stuff like that, and ghost stories and stuff like that. And then by the time I hit like middle school and high school, I was able to kind of like watch some of it, USA Up All Night, things like that, where I would see kind of older horror movies I'd never seen before, and some B movies. The Stuff. I remember going over to my friend Justin's house and talking about The Stuff.
Larry Cohen, a classic.
We talked about it in front of his dad. He was like, "Did you see The Stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, I saw The Stuff." And his dad's like, "What stuff? What are you talking about?" He was confused. Just a lot of stuff like that. I'd always been around it. I always enjoyed it, but it wasn't until middle school, high school, when I wasn't as scared of it as much. And then like college, I got into some of the deeper stuff, and the Dawn of the Dead remake came out when I was in college, and I got into Romero stuff kind of right before that, and Day of the Dead, which I want to do really bad. I have a couple buddies, this Bugmain, and I used to live with Jack Allison, and I'd play parts of Day of the Dead, and I love that movie so much, and I was so bummed to hear Jack stole it. I loved that movie forever. Jack did it on here. It's like it's up there with as some of my, like, one of my favorite horror movies. And the thing is like my top 20 movies of all time. So yeah, I love The Thing.
I love Day of the Dead is my favorite of the Romero movies.
Oh, me too.
I think it's incredible. I think that this is not to take away from the first two, which are incredible in their own right, but just the questions that Day of the Dead is asking and the scares in it and the fact that Joe Pilato is just going absolutely buck wild in there. Great movie. And The Thing, I always say that The Thing is like the Venn diagram middle section for me of actually scary and actually good. And it's got both things just firing at all cylinders.
And seen as a failure. It's so crazy to me that it was seen as a failure. It's just it looks incredible to this day.
Yeah.
When I saw The Thing probably like my sophomore or junior year in college. So I even saw it kind of late. This is 2002 or 2003. But before there was kind of like a Thing renaissance. I feel like a Thing-a-sance. I feel like people really started loving The Thing, and then the sequel came around when I was in LA, and I was really excited for that, and it wasn't great, but I was blown away in school just seeing a movie that's like whatever 20 plus years old, and being like at that time and being like this looks cooler and is scarier than any horror movie I've seen recently, Romero stuff I got into big when I was in college, and I love Day. Day to me is just there's so much doom and gloom in that movie, and people are like, oh, I love the feel of the 70s mixed in with Dawn of the Dead, and it gives a really weird vibe. And for me, it's the same thing with Day, but with the 80s. There's just a corrupt, empty feeling in that movie, and the opening so good. When they're calling for people in Miami, I think it is, and you slowly see the dead come out, and an alligator and the newspaper blows over. I love that movie so much. It to me that is his best movie. And then I remember when I came to LA, like the first year, Land of the Dead came out too. And you know what? I like Land. I like parts of Land.
Yeah.
Like I loved it when I saw it at the time, and then I've revisited and been like, oh, okay, I see its shortcomings and stuff like that. But especially the opening to Land, I mean, that's what we all wanted. That's the feeling in Day of the Dead where that opening set piece and you see all the zombies coming out. I feel like people just wanted more of that. Romero fans wanted more of that world and to see more of that, and to feel that kind of that have that feeling of we lost, and it's inescapable. You're surrounded by they now run the major cities, and how do you deal with that? And that's what I was hoping Land to be like. And you get glimpses of it, and there are great moments of it, but Day still that opening is just like it's so good.
Absolutely.
It blows me away.
Yeah, I totally agree. I agree that Land has some interesting stuff going on. And I think that you're really right about what people were looking for, because Day of the Dead, it does start off with this great zombie thing where everyone is like, all these zombies are coming out of the woodwork. And then so much of it just cuts back to the base, and it's just focused on humanity being its own worst enemy and tearing itself apart. And then I can understand why somebody would be like, "Oh, I came here for more zombies than this."
Oh, of course, and it works so well, just that tension, and then in the end, just the insane. Some of the effects at the end of that are
untouchable.
It's untouchable, and it's just some of the fucking grossest shit outside of like The Fly.
Yeah,
The Fly and Day of the Dead. Just some of the goriest stuff you could ever see, and
when
it looks
Pilato
so
gets
real.
ripped in half.
It's insane. I mean, the vocal cord stretching to me is he's like, ah, and it goes. You're just like, how did a person even think of that? When I was watching it, I mean, the first time I watched it, it's like watching a snuff film or something. It feels like you shouldn't be seeing it. Mm-hmm. It feels like the Faces of Death or something. It doesn't feel right when you're watching the ending of Day of the Dead for the first time. And I remember I was in college, and I was a sophomore in college, and I had it on TV the first time I watched it, I think, and just calling my friend, and at the time of being like, this movie's fucked up. I need to talk to somebody. It's too fucked up. I'm an adult, and I'm whatever, sophomore in college. I'm 20 years old, and I needed to talk to someone because that scene just got to me so much. And then I feel The Ring came out when I was that same year, actually. The Gore Verbinski's The Ring,
Right?
And I really loved The Ring when it first came out. I think it is a great horror movie. Still, I think it really works, and obviously the original Ringu is amazing. But I loved it back in the day, and me and my roommate Matt Grana and the two women who lived the floor below us, we went and all watched it as a group. And afterwards, I remember the women were like, the two girls were like, well, we were, that wasn't that scary, and me and Matt were like, yeah, it was fine. And then in our room, we like turned the TV around and had it face the wall because we were so terrified. And the two women we went with, besides probably being bummed out that they were with us, they just were not scared of the movie. It did not affect them at all.
Wow.
Not to say that there ever is any gender line as far as who is afraid of movies and who's not, but that me and my roommate Matt we were freaked out by The Ring, and both of us were like, we're not having any of it. And I feel like horror kind of went down. The Ring is great in some ways, and then that kind of was what it was for a while. And there was the Grudge remake and a lot of things like that. And it got into a place where whatever I feel like was 13 Ghosts around then too,
Yeah,
and then
the remake of that. Yeah, it did kick off a big like import horror kind of wave where they were like, all right, let's just do a bunch of these remakes. We actually just recently covered The Ring on this show, and it was my first time watching it because I was pretty young when it came out. I was too young to get into the movie, even though it was PG-13. And I was also very scared at the time. I was like, there's no way I'm going to go see this movie. And so
Samara is scary.
She's so scary. I was still
really scary.
Really freaked out watching this movie the other week.
It's scary. That turn at the end when the kid's like, why'd you do that? You shouldn't have let her, like, whatever. You shouldn't have let her free, or you shouldn't have saved her, or whatever they do.
Yeah.
And you realize, like, oh, fuck. She's just, like, evil. And then...
What a twist.
And then watching her crawl out of the TV at the end is and I mean, that Gore does a good job in that with that movie. It just is, it's really spooky. It worked really well for me. And I know that some people are so, like, it's only the original and fuck the remake, but... It worked. Yeah, why not? It worked for me. I liked it. Yeah. But I've been a fan ever since then. And like when I'm in LA, there's Neil Campbell and Paul Russ will sometimes do like a horror movie marathon on Halloween, like, or around Halloween, where we'd watch movies all day, and they'd range from, it would go from something that's not that scary, like is it Scary Buddies, like the Air Bud, maybe Spooky Buddies or something. Like that will be the first movie they play, or like I can't think of a good example right now. But oh, you know what, Mr. Boogedy, like it would be Mr. Boogedy is the first movie, and then the last movie is like Cannibal Holocaust or something like that. Like it goes from something light to something dark.
Yeah,
like new wave French horror or something like that, like the French. What is it? French.
Yeah, French Extremity.
Yeah, French Extremity. Yeah, and stuff which I sometimes just even hard to watch, but it's fun to it's fun to kind of. And I've seen a lot of great movies that way too. Things I've never heard of, but it's fun to go from something light to something grotesque, something you can't even keep your eyes on. Because a lot of that stuff works for me. I will still turn away from the screen. Watching The Fly still. The arm breaking scene, things like that. It still gets to me. Things like body horror and things like that really, I don't do well with. So I still will go see a scary movie in theaters. I love going to the movies, and I always try to see whatever the new scary movie is in theaters, and Conjuring and stuff in the last few years. And I feel like I saw Mama in theaters, and I loved Mama when I first saw Mama in theaters. But there is a thing with newer, big budget horror movies where I loved Mama, and then the director directed It 1 and It 2, and I didn't love It 1 or It 2. I thought they were both kind of not great. Mm-hmm. And it's weird that horror movies are now a lot of the time gigantic, big budget summer movies, when that was not always the case. But I love it all. I love all of them. I have Shudder. I try to watch as much as I can. But today we're talking about one that really affected me as a kid. So
just to talk about that Neil Campbell, Paul Rust marathon for a second, we actually, Neil has come on the show and we talked a little bit about sort of the curation method that he goes through and how he picks and everything. And it was really interesting. So
he's so good at it. I mean, they find movies, he and Paul will find movies that I hadn't heard of that are great. We watched The Girl with All the Gifts. Is that what it's called?
Right.
And I had never heard of that, and then we watched it, and I loved it. And we'll just watch kind of, I feel like horror fans will know a lot of them, but stuff that a lot of people haven't gotten their eyes on yet, and they'll be great. Like the last few movies, there's always something cool we're watching, whether it is like a weird 70s horror or like Pieces or something like that. And
it's helpful to have someone who can kind of take the deep dives and be like, oh, here's sort of the best of what we've found, and introduce it to people.
We watched on Shudder this last year. We watched Z, and I liked Z quite a bit. Z was fun.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
I don't know if you watched Z. Yeah, it's good.
But yes, as you say, we're here to talk about Child's Play today. And
the best one,
the best horror movie ever made. And like you said, it came out in the 80s. And now one of the big things about the 80s that everyone remembers is sort of the consumerism of it all. And it started with this pretty severe recession, but people started spending again after taking cues from Reagan's opulence when he took office in 81. His inauguration cost $11 million. The new China cost over $250,000. Plus, malls were becoming even bigger, more companies could make mail order work, and it was everywhere in the culture with songs like Material Girl coming out in 1985. So it was very, very focused on sort of material wealth.
And you know what? You know who benefited from that? Me, because I was getting that fucking Ninja Turtles play set.
Oh, yeah.
I was getting the Soar. Yeah, every Ghostbusters toy. Wow. I mean, not everyone, but you get it.
Yeah.
80s kids had it great. There were a lot of great toys back then. And
hell yeah.
I didn't know the opulence of the 80s like some older people did, but from certainly the opening of the movie where Child's Play comes up over a bunch of boxes of Chucky dolls or good guy dolls is relatable. I feel like going to there was a place called Child World, which is kind of a creepy name. There was a place in Child World in Quincy, and just the opening to this movie, I was like, yeah, this is what it was. This is where this is like my my favorite place to be as a kid from whatever 3 to 8 years old. So
yeah, I think that is one of the things that really emerged as a cultural touchstone of the 80s. It's very reminiscent of sort of the Cabbage Patch chaos between 1983 and 1986, where parents were literally fighting to get Cabbage Patch dolls for Christmas. And that was a little bit before my time, but I do remember the Tickle Me Elmo debacle being pretty similar. So,
oh yeah, Tickle Me Elmo was that was one crazy Christmas. I remember people died. I mean, like, it's insane that like even one person died.
Yeah,
that's so sad over Tickle Me Elmo. Like, God,
hard to believe.
No, don't. Yeah, Jesus, don't care about this. But that I feel like that was that's maybe like when it was dying. It's dying breath. Not to say that there isn't, you see with the PS5 or whatever this year that people will always try to get whatever the hot toy or gaming console is or whatever. But I feel like especially in like the My Buddy and Me, like that all maybe died with Tickle Me Elmo until a new one comes out in 5 years.
Sure, eventually there will be a new one for sure. But yeah, anything that's this popular as to literally incite brawls is going to create a lot of imitators. And one such imitator was the My Buddy doll, which you mentioned, which was sort of a Cabbage Patch Kid aimed more at boys. Honestly, a little bit of a controversial move at the time, as I'm sure people can imagine based on how people are acting about Potato Head. They were like, oh, you can't market a doll to boys. Like, that's just not allowed. And
how wrong they were. Boys, I feel like more often than not, like, it will be males who collect dolls and figures into their later years, it turns out. So they were right by aiming some of these things at little boys. It worked for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is obviously, it's not a hot take to be like, oh, this is something that people are overly consumeristic. And so over at UCLA, Don Mancini, excuse me, was studying film, and he pulled together a script based on a variety of influences, not only the aforementioned consumerism in My Buddy Dolls, but he's also mentioned the 1963 episode of The Twilight Zone called Living Doll, where Talkie Tina kills the mean stepfather of her new owner. And he also mentioned the third story in the 1975 made-for-TV horror anthology movie Trilogy of Terror, titled Amelia, wherein the doll containing the spirit of a Zuni warrior attacks and ultimately possesses the titular Amelia. So that's sort of where his influences all came from.
Which scary, I mean, it definitely is scary genre, but I feel like Child's Play perfected it. None of them, and you know what, I wasn't a kid in whatever, the 70s when Trilogy of Terror or whatever it is came out. Is it a 70s movie or 60s?
Yeah, 75.
70s. So I don't know how effective it was back in the day, but man, Child's Play works really well. And some of those things, whatever, I feel like my mom saw that Twilight Zone episode and was in it scared the hell out of her, but they brought it into the modern world. They matched Jason and Freddy on the same level of 8-year-old Mitch was terrified of Chucky the most of the three, you know.
Yeah, I think that you're really correct about this sort of it is a scary genre, to be sure, because it's very freaky to think of, like, even Toy Story, if you think about it too hard, you're like, oh, I don't like the idea of these guys walking around when I'm not looking.
Something safe, like it's just watching the movie, the whole opening to me, so much of it just doesn't, it feels like it would never work now. If I was reading scripts and I was giving like script notes or whatever, and someone gave me an opening where this murder, like kind of a serial killer type asshole who he is a serial killer, but he's also kind of in a gang. I don't know what the hell's going on, but this guy who gets shot and then like uses basically, I think
voodoo.
Is it voodoo? Yeah. To put himself into a doll and like lightning strikes in the store, like explodes. I would be like, reading that, I'd be like, no, like this won't work. It's such a crazy opening to that movie that it feels like in the modern world it feels like a whole different genre at first. It doesn't. Yeah. It somehow works. It works. It works really well. But go on with what you were saying. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. Well, I think that it's also interesting that opening, which does surprisingly work, is the second run at it, because originally he was going to get transferred from being in the electric chair, and like his soul would zap over. And so the idea that they were like, this doesn't work, let's go back, make this voodoo magic where the lightning strikes the store and explodes.
So that was reshot?
It wasn't reshot, it was rescripted.
Rescripted, okay.
But
that is wild.
It is wild. And the script was titled Blood Buddy and would have featured a doll that has fake blood for it if you played rough with it, which at first I was like, that is insane. That's like the worst idea for a doll I ever heard. But then I was like, oh, but there are like dolls that go to the bathroom and stuff.
Of course.
So I guess this isn't crazy.
Blood Buddy maybe would have worked. I probably would have had one if it existed back in the day. I feel like Blood Buddy, you just like beat it up and it will start bleeding. That is crazy.
It's an interesting idea, but the idea is that Andy's blood would have mixed with the doll, bringing him to life through Andy's repressed rage attacking his enemies. It was also one thing that I did think was interesting about this original script is that it was going to be kept ambiguous for longer about if the killer was Andy or the doll.
Which, that's one of my big notes watching the movie. And you know, they don't really show Chucky, and I wrote it down. I think it was like 43 minutes in or something, where you finally see Chucky, like, oh, that's Chucky. There he is. He's talking, or in the crazy moment, especially with Catherine Hicks, where his head twists around, and then you're like, oh, it is really doll, which is fucking scary as hell.
Yeah,
super scary. But I did wonder, because there's a world where I think you play up that mystery to the end, and then there's a world where it's like, oh shit, Andy is the murderer. Oh my god, Andy's gone insane. And,
right.
And I feel like you could see a lot of movies ending that way. And honestly, I feel like even seeing Brad Dourif, is that how I didn't say his name incorrectly, right?
I think so.
He's great. And he's right. He's in Deadwood. He's in a bunch of stuff.
Ooh, I love him in Deadwood. He's great in The Exorcist 3 as well.
He's great. I mean, he's so much fun, and he's the perfect voice of Chucky. And I honestly don't know if seeing him before He enters Chucky. I don't know if the opening works as well like now, but I still do love it because even if whatever, it feels like I was saying, it feels like a completely crazy different movie almost when you're watching the opening to the scares you have later of like seeing Chucky scurry by, but that stuff still works. You know, it doesn't affect it to that stuff, so that stuff doesn't work. Just the mystery side of it and all of that could have been played out a little bit more. But I still anytime that you get to see Chucky moving or you see him out of the corner of your eye, the fucking scariest. It's so scary.
Yeah.
Just getting a little glimpses of Chucky, and then later even seeing him just like moving when they pull all the guns out and he's really moving. Also scary, but
yeah, I really agree. I think that this movie feels like it could have gone in like 5 different directions, and each one of them would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I think I also noted that it was almost exactly halfway when Chucky, his head turns around and you're like, oh shit, it is Chucky.
Yeah, it's fucking Chucky. And it's crazy that he goes off into like a Chucky rant too. Which, because there's a lot of stuff where you're like, oh, Chucky gets funnier later, you know, like he's not as funny here. You don't see like as much of the Chucky being like, hey Andy, it's me. Like you see a little bit of that, don't get me wrong, but in 2, like you see more Chucky, and in 3 you see more Chucky, and then later on he's
the main character.
He's the main character. He's comedic. You know what I mean? You're seeing like the fear of seeing Chucky is gone, but that part, I mean, I'm sure that we'll get to it, but the part where the batteries fall out and then she walks over to Chucky and checks and sees he has no batteries, his head spins around. That shit is
terrifying.
That's like horror movie gold. It rules. It's so good. And then quickly after that, he goes nuts.
Yeah.
And it's like, you fucking bitch. And it's like more like Chucky. It's crazy when he goes off and is like calling Catherine Hicks a bitch and a slut and this terrible stuff. And you're like, oh, that feels a little bit more like how Chucky is later, but it's also darker and kind of more fucked up than Chucky is later on. You know, I don't know if Chucky is ever as fucked up as he is in this first movie ever again.
Yeah, it's interesting. They kind of, I think that with the VOD ones, the 2 most recent ones, not including the reboot, they kind of tried to go back that way. And I know that not everyone likes the newer ones. I happen to think that the 2 VOD ones are pretty solid, and especially Cult of Chucky, they really, I think, tend to go a little towards the darker side again, which is an interesting path. I'm not opposed to them going back this way.
Yeah, I mean, like, I love some of the campy stuff later on too. You know, like Seed of Chucky and Bride of Chucky are a lot of fun, and it's the craziest franchise. I mean, I tip my hat to Mancini because this movie feels like it never should have worked, and it fucking worked. And then there's people who love this movie, and they're just fans of the franchise. And it showed when the remake came out, and a lot of people were upset about it too. That, oh, these people who make these movies are still really in control of it, and you know, like they're still saying and doing interesting things. Yeah, which I think that they are.
It would be one thing if the franchise had been like sitting there languishing for years, but like they were still putting out movies together. The steady hand of Dourif and Mancini holding it down. I don't know. It just didn't feel like it needed to happen, considering they could have just let them keep going. But I guess we'll get the TV show. So
the TV show should be interesting. Yeah, and they're involved with the TV show, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And hey, I love Aubrey Plaza. She's great, and it was fun to go see the new Chucky. Was it called Chucky?
I think it's Child's Play again.
That's right, because they have the remake rights to Child's Play specifically.
Right.
The first movie. And there's like a couple fun moments in the movie, but the original is so good. And speaking of which, just stuff that you touched on before, but in the opening when we see Andy, he's like he's watching what is the Chucky world? He's watching like a Good Guy cartoon show.
Yeah.
And then he's like making breakfast for his mom, and he's using Good Guy cereal.
Oh, that breakfast.
That breakfast is fucking gross. I mean, that I did mark that down. That him spilling the breakfast and waking up Catherine Hicks at 6:30 a.m. is the scariest part of the movie for me. That's fucking sucks. It's a nightmare to be woken up at fucking 6:30 and then have this disgusting breakfast of super charred toast, which will come back later. That charred toast is a little hint of what's to come.
So true. I'm surprised that the fire alarm didn't go off and wake her up first before he had a chance to wake her up. But
this kid, and he's making this. He's putting sugar in the super sugary cereal.
A lot of sugar.
Yes, and then there's a great thing with a good guy's mascot that's giant, like this giant like a Disney mascot version of Chucky that's in the commercial. And I was like, man, later Child's Plays should have had like a giant Chucky would be fun, like a life-size Chucky, or something like that. Would have been so much fun.
I just checked my notes. He puts 3 spoonfuls of sugar.
Wow, that is. Your notes are good if you know the number of spoonfuls of sugar, because it's fucking it's nasty.
Well, I took note specifically of that because I was truly losing my mind watching this, as he puts like a huge spoonful of margarine on the burnt toast and everything too.
Fucking, it's so disgusting. And then Carol from Empty Nest is the one who fucks everything up by seeing the Chucky doll being sold in the alleyway. And
wow, I didn't even think of that. It is her fault.
It is her fault. The whole thing is her fault. I mean, she's helping her friend out, but she seals her fate by telling Catherine Hicks that there's a Chucky available.
And so basically he had this script, and there were a few interested producers who wanted to make it, including Charles Band, who went on to make his own famous puppet horror movies, which is the Puppet Master franchise.
Wow.
Yeah, he said, I don't need you.
Puppet Master also, those spooked me as a kid too. That worked.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
But David Kirshner, who people might know as one of the writers of American Tail, was also he was a producer at United Artists. And after reading The Dollhouse Murders, a book where a dollhouse reenacts the murder of a young girl's grandparents by their handyman, he correctly decided that dolls are creepy as hell, and he wanted to make a movie about them.
Great call. I mean, they're creepy as hell.
Yeah, absolutely. And so he told the readers at UA to dig through the pile, and they pulled out Blood Buddy, which actually was originally titled Batteries Not Included. And then they had John LaFia rewrite it to Blood Buddy to make it less of a whodunit, and he took out Andy out of the running as a suspect earlier to make him more sympathetic. And this is also when Charles Lee Ray gets moved to the magic spell in the toy store instead of the electric chair.
What do you think? Do you think it would have been a better move to have to keep the whodunit? I can't tell, because seeing Chucky, but also of course at the end you could have revealed that it was still Chucky, and it would have been terrifying. You know, that it actually was the doll. But I don't know. I honestly can't tell what's the better move there.
I think that it would have been a better one shot. But I think that this is better for the long run. Yeah,
of course. For franchise sake, it's much better. And you know what? The crazy thing is that I noted this, is that 14 minutes in, and you already see Chucky kind of moving around. Like, you know, not but just 14 minutes into the movie, Chucky has been purchased, and he's like looking at the TV or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
These creepy things where he's blinking or like turning his attention towards the TV to hear about his friend that he wants to murder.
Right.
Yeah.
The directors that they had considered were William Friedkin, speaking of The Exorcist.
Terrifying.
And Irvin Kershner, no relation to the producer I just mentioned, David Kirshner. Before Steven Spielberg, who had worked with David as a producer on American Tail, recommended Tom Holland. I like Tom Holland's work a lot. He wrote Psycho 2, which is shockingly good.
Yep.
And then he also wrote and directed Fright Night 3 years prior to this movie, which I like a lot as well.
That's right, yeah. And that's where Detective Mike.
That's right. Chris Sarandon.
Chris Sarandon.
He's great.
Who was married to early on to Susan Sarandon. That's how Susan Sarandon has the last name Sarandon. Is from this guy.
There you go.
A little fun fact.
I didn't even know that.
She kept that as she kept her name Susan Sarandon as a stage name, and after they split up at one point. But.
Right. Hey, I love Susan Sarandon. She's great.
She's fantastic.
But like you said, Brad Dourif is really kind of dialed in on Chucky, which the role of Charles Lee Ray, which is the human name of him, is a triple portmanteau between Charles Manson, Lee Harvey Oswald, and James Earl Ray. And like we said, he's great in Deadwood, he's great in The Exorcist 3, but they had considered a few other people for the voice of Chucky, not necessarily Charles Lee Ray. Although they did consider John Lithgow for Charles Lee Ray. I'm not sure he has the sort of gleeful chaos energy that
yeah,
Dourif
I can't
brings.
see that. I mean, I also just think of him so lovingly. He always plays roles where he's a lot of the time where he's kind of a lovable guy. So
Someone hasn't watched Footloose enough.
You know what? I'm sure he could have pulled it off, but Brad Dourif is great in the role.
Yeah.
And you know what? Charles Lee Ray works. The name works for me. I get that they're pulling from a bunch of serial killers, but it works. It works well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, they did the voice of Chucky in post-production, and so they had even tested a cut where it was done by Jessica Walters, and he was like, hey, the devil was voiced by a lady in The Exorcist, and that worked. But audiences didn't respond well to this, and he liked her performance, but wasn't thrilled with how it fit into the movie. So ultimately, they just went back to Brad, which I think was the right move, because he does transition so perfectly and really keep it steady.
Oh, I agree. I mean, like, especially later on in the series, but like I was saying, that voice of like, "I'll fucking kill you" is scary as hell. And then also like, "Come on, Andy," like when he's talking like that,
when he's trying to be the nice guy, the good guy.
He's trying to be a good guy. He's like, it works really, really well. So I think perfect casting. I think Brad is great in the movie.
Absolutely. Andy Barclay is played by Alex Vincent. I think he does a good job. Kid acting is so tough.
He does a good job. He does one particularly bad line, and it's at the end of the movie. "This is the end, friend," when he does that.
Yeah, it's not great. One's not great.
It's not great, and it's also like so not worth it for that line, because Chucky doesn't die there. Like, that is not. I know that it's like, yeah, we got him or whatever, but Chucky comes back to life moments later.
Yeah, it's also like, is this 6-year-old gonna like be like, yeah, I had thought of the perfect one-liner.
Yeah, it just that one-liner doesn't work that well. But all the stuff going on around then is rules, but the one-liner doesn't do it. But he does do a good job. It's, of course, child acting is so hard, and I think the kid is good in that way of he actually does feel like a kid, which is maybe the most important part of this movie is you need it to feel like a little kid, and it feels like a little kid. And when he's just right, I wrote down here when you see him, like the doll whispering to him, and which is like the kid just acting and holding the doll up to his ear or whatever. It's fucking scary. It's scary, and it looks good. And then, we get the moment where Chucky's looking at the TV and watching the new, like when Carol from Empty Nest comes out and she gets shocked that the doll is sitting there with the news on. It's so fucking scary, and works well. And then the POVs. That's the thing. It's like the POVs are so scary when you get Chucky's first POV. And I feel like you could have played with that longer with the Andy thing, but I don't know. They of course made the right choice.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, his feeling like a kid who is sort of swept up in this, I think, is the most important part of it. It's not something like Sixth Sense where he has to have this sort of grounded adultness about him. He needs to feel like a 6-year-old and the kind of kid who would be desperate to have this toy and would be thrilled and obsessed with it and everything. I think it does work.
Yeah. Look, you don't want to see this child stabbed. Not that you want to see any child stabbed, but they're like, this is a poor little kid. Yeah. I am nervous that this kid's going to get killed or his body's going to get taken over by this fucking psycho doll.
Yeah. And it's even to the point where he's so sympathetic that the reason he got the role is because when he was like talking to the casting people, he didn't want to say the word bitch in the audition when he's like, Chucky said Aunt Carol's a bitch or something like that.
That's so funny.
And so he pretended to forget the line, and he did it like several times, and they believed it until he started crying because he was just like, I don't want to say the word bitch.
That's so funny and cute. What a nice kid. I'm happy he got the part.
Yeah, and
you know what? That line is, "This is the end, friend." It's good. I'm just gonna say it's good. I like it.
You're off the hook, Andy. Alex.
You're off the hook, Andy.
As you said, Andy's mom is played by Catherine Hicks, who I think is absolutely fantastic in this movie as the beleaguered mom trying to do her best.
She's great. Yeah. And met her husband on this movie.
That's right. Over 2 decades they've been together now, Kevin Yeager. And Kevin Yeager designed the animatronic, which these kind of robotics were really in their infancy at the time. And he was only 24 when he started working on Child's Play. And,
wow.
And now he's an icon for these things. I mean, he designed the Crypt Keeper as well, which is a personal favorite of mine. And that robot actually reused the eyes from the Chucky doll.
Wow. That makes so much sense. He has those kind of blue eyes, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Those eyes are fucking creepy. especially when you see him burnt up and you still see his his bluish eyes.
That's right.
Man, yeah, so good.
And it actually took up to 9 puppeteers to work the various animatronics, including I was watching the behind the scenes stuff, and they were like controlling the face pieces through this like neat rig that just like mimicked their facial motions and everything. And then they also used stand-ins for sequences that required a little more agility.
And the stand-in is the actor from Children of the Corn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the actor from I think Kane. Is it Kane from Children of the Corn? Yes, that's who plays the runaround Chucky, which for me it's the scariest version of Chucky. I still think the scariest version is when you see him when Andy's in the I guess mental hospital, basically. You see Chucky kind of climbing the stairs outside.
Oh, yeah.
All that shit, all the background catching glimpse of Chucky, or when like he like is like standing up and looks down and runs out of the room or whatever. Just I love that stuff. That stuff is the scary. That's what scared me so much as a kid. For this movie specifically, I just remember, I don't know how old I was when it came out, like 6 or 7, maybe like 6. I think it was 6 years old, and I remember this movie with pay-per-view. That's specifically what I remember about this movie is pay-per-view, and maybe it was channel 30 at the time in Boston. I don't know what, on cable, and you could watch it, and they would show like the first few minutes of the movie on pay-per-view way back in the day, and then you could call up a number and order it. But it would then scramble, and you could sometimes still listen to it when it was scrambled, or you could sometimes like still see it. And I feel like, I don't know if this is right or not, but I feel like I like saw a lot of this movie, whether it was like a free preview, because I think they even did free previews sometimes, or it was like an HBO free preview or something, and I just saw too much of Chucky. And like I remember watching the pay-per-view channel scrambled and like being so afraid of
through the
Chucky.
static.
Truly, I mean, even just hearing it, and they would play like the trailer over and over again on the pay-per-view too, before the movie started, or after it had started,
right?
And that scared the shit out of me too. So this is specifically a movie that scared me more than maybe any other. And I've told a story on my podcast Doughboys where I had a moment where a Mickey doll grabbed my arm. One night when I was asleep in bed, I remember a Mickey doll grabbing my arm, and so much of that has to have come from this movie. I mean, it happened because of this movie.
Yeah.
And it was probably a year or 2 after the movie had already come out, but still just scared the shit out of me.
Sure. Hey, that Mickey's a freak.
He is. Mickey can be scary too. Any doll is scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I think it was Kane. I'm not positive. Kane, Children of the Corn. I'm looking it up now. But he played the stunt double that would run around.
There you go. Fun fact.
Fun facts.
And they finally started filming in Chicago in January of 1988 using the Brewster Apartments, famously the home of Charlie Chaplin, as the family's home, and wrapping less than 2 months later.
Wow.
They started testing with a 2-hour rough cut, which that's too long for this movie.
Yeah. I mean, the movie it's 90 minutes and it moves quick. It starts up and then Carol from Empty Nest is getting hammered in the head pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It moves, and I think that it's to the movie's benefit. And
100%. Yeah.
Especially if they had sort of teased out sort of the whodunit aspect, I could see that being where some of the additional length comes in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe it was better to not even deal in any of that stuff. They made Isaac. It's Isaac in Children of the Corn is the kid.
There you go.
John Franklin is his name. He ran around as Chucky for a little bit. But yeah, 2 hours not gonna work. That's too long.
Yeah, and it got negative reviews from that and from the audiences at the test screenings. And so Holland, Kirshner, and Mancini cut the film up to reduce the amount of time Chucky was on screen, actually, something that Kirshner had advocated for during production to build suspense similar to Jaws or Alien, excuse me. And after these cuts, it finally started getting positive reviews, balancing the comedy and scares, and on release it earned just over $44 million on a budget of $9 million, so pretty successful.
Yeah, it's a success, especially back in the day.
Right.
I'm surprised. I mean, that I feel the budget for this movie now would be way less. I feel like there wouldn't even be a $9 million budget on it. So
yeah, and it's interesting because I think that really is in the sweet spot, because without that budget, there's no way the animatronics look as good as they do or anything. And I'm sure that the special effects are where a lot of the budget went to.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and they look so good.
Yeah,
that's the funny thing is, like, watching this movie, you'd be like, oh, there's dolls like this, and you're like, no, there was, like, my buddy or Teddy Ruxpin sucked so much, and seeing this doll, you're like, whoa, this doll is like scary, but it looks legit, but obviously is like doing stuff that most of these dolls can't really do, turning its head and like blinking its eyes like a fucking creep. They nailed it with the robots. They look really great.
Absolutely. We're gonna take a quick break, but we'll be right back to the show. Hi, everybody. George here, and I wanted to tell you about a podcast releasing soon called We Heard About Pluto, a psych watch-along podcast where three psychos and their guests will be rewatching the series from the very beginning and discussing the show, from gushing about Gus to searching for the hidden pineapples and everything in between. Plus, most germane to listeners of the Best Little Horror House, one of those three hosts is me. I love psych, and I'm very excited to be talking about it with my pals Reegs and JP. So keep an eye out for We Heard About Pluto, because it's coming soon, and you know that's right. Back to the show. So to get into the actual movie, it starts off so good. Not only with the scene that we were talking about, but the pulsing score over the credits, I think, really like gets you jazzed and interested in. I think it's great.
The score is great. The score is fantastic. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of like ding 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 ding. There's a lot of that stuff later, but it's played really well. A lot of creepy, like kind of a little kid creepy music too, kind of vibe, almost like a poltergeisty music. It's great.
Yeah, it is great. And it opens up on this detective casting off his disguise to chase a serial killer. What's not to love?
Yeah. Detective Mike, Chris Sarandon or whatever,
and Mike Norris, he shoots Charles Lee Ray, also known as the Lakeshore Strangler, which is a fun serial killer moniker.
It is great. I almost wish that we knew more about the Lakeshore Strangler. And it is just funny that like with this serial killer, that it's just like turned into a thing where it's like a foot chase and they're chasing each other and shooting guns at each other. And there's another guy, Eddie, That's Eddie,
right. His partner in crime.
Yeah.
And he sees this chase happening, plus a cop car coming up after him, and he just peels out and he leaves Charles to fend for himself.
Yeah.
And so, like you say, Charles breaks into this toy store. We finally get the title card when the camera lingers on a pile of Good Guys dolls stacked to the dang ceiling.
Yeah.
And I loved just watching the camera like navigate this toy store and getting to scope out all the fun old toys like Power Play Hockey and all that stuff. Just fun to look at. It
was so great. I mean, like I said, it was that sort of thing of that. It was the best and safest place for a kid to be. I think there's that just in what this movie plays on so much of is like, oh, the safety of a child. Like he's safe when he has his toys or he has his doll or whatever.
Right.
And then turning a doll villainous. It's perfect.
And so in this toy store, Detective Mike shoots Charles again and he hits him in the chest. And so Charles, he realizes his impending death and he threatens to kill both Mike for shooting him and Eddie for leaving him. And so he performs this spell to transfer his soul into a good guy doll, which causes the store, as we said, to be struck by lightning.
Struck by lightning and explodes.
This fucking rules. The shattering glass, the gathering clouds, the huge fucking explosion, and the stunt work with everyone just flying out of there.
It's fucking crazy. And this happens. I mean, we'll get into it, but this happens a couple more times where I was like, holy shit, they do some big practical explosions and stuff in this movie.
Yeah, the car flip later and everything.
The car
too.
flip, another house explodes entirely.
It's crazy. They really went for it.
They really did.
And so Mike goes back into the rubble and he finds the lifeless body of Charles Lee Ray. But the camera pans to a good guy doll that seems to have a suspicious glint in his eye. Really just a nice little like tease of what's coming. I love the way that they handle that.
Yeah, I love that Chucky is so lifeless for a long while. It's like even when Andy has him, he's not he plays dead for quite a bit.
Yeah.
But then again, the movie also moves fast. So
it doesn't feel like as long as it is.
Yeah, the idea that Chucky could be alive is it like I said, like 15 or so minutes into the movie, this idea is there. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the early creepiness until you actually see Chucky move is just, head motions, or you see him, scuttering around behind or something like that, which could have been Andy.
Yeah. And this is when we first meet Andy, is it cuts to him and it's the next morning. Like we said, it's a 6-year-old obsessed with the good guys. He's watching the TV show. He's wearing the PJs. He's eating the cereal. I'm curious, what's your favorite breakfast cereal?
That's a good question. For me, as an adult, still, I like Frosted Flakes. I love Frosted Flakes. And then I eat Raisin Bran as an adult, which I should probably even have like Cashy or something, but Raisin Bran is good enough.
Yeah.
And back then, I don't know. I feel like there was Rice Krispies there, and then as a kid, I had Fruit Loops for a while, Cookie Crisp, Fruity Pebbles. Fruity Pebbles were a big one, which is kind of what he pours into his bowl in the beginning of the when he's making that disgusting breakfast.
It was interesting. So I had the classic situation growing up where I wasn't allowed to eat particularly sweet cereals from my parents, but then I would go to my grandparents' house and just go absolutely apeshit. Mm-hmm. so at home, I would be eating Cheerios, Rice Krispies. My dad loves Kellogg's Product 19, a cereal no one has ever heard of before.
You know what? I used to love Rice Krispie Treats cereal. That was one that I really loved back in the day.
That was great. That was one that I had at my grandparents' house. That was a big one. And Oreo O's were the two that I really loved.
Oreos. These also remind me of, I think, the Super Mario Brothers cereal. There was a Super Mario Brothers and Zelda cereal that two different sides of the box had the different cereals. And just the idea of these kind of thick, good guy, orange and green and yellow cereal pieces that I kind of wanted to try it. I did want to try the cereal.
Absolutely. Hey,
it was good.
It's always funny to see what kind of licensed stuff does make it out there.
Yeah. Get some good guys cereal. They should sell that online. I'm surprised that they never did.
Yeah. But so he does go wake up his mom, the widowed Karen, and they open up his birthday gifts. And I really love the relationship that they establish between them right away. And of course, it is brutal to think that he's getting a good guy doll and then it's closed, the ultimate slap in the face gift to a child.
I put that on Catherine Hicks for putting it in a good guy shaped box.
Yes.
He's so excited to see the shape of the box, and she put clothes in the box. I mean, she you didn't have any other box to put it in. It looks so much like it's like.
I think she realizes right away too when she's like, "You don't want to open the smaller ones first."
Yeah, he wants to open the big one. I mean, the only way it could have been crazier if it was a bicycle shaped present, and then you opened it and it was closed. It's truly insane how much it looks like that thin, tall box, which is very specific.
Yeah. And so she is upset at his being upset. And so she buys the doll from a guy on the street, thanks to her friend Maggie, who she works with. And she returns to her job at the jewelry store counter, which she's at a department store, and she gets hectored by her annoying boss, who tells her that she has to come in later to cover a shift, despite it being Andy's birthday. And so
I feel like would this guy have gotten killed in is there a longer cut where this guy gets
I hope so.
Gets destroyed. This was a prime he should be killed guy.
Yeah.
And he never Chucky should fucking strangle him with his bow tie or some shit. It just felt like a lost opportunity, or maybe it was scripted and they cut it out or something. But
he does feel like the kind of guy who's set up for a death later.
Oh yeah. If I was watching this movie anew and I'd never seen it before, I'd be like, this guy's toast. he just feels like a guy who's going down.
He sure does. Well, hey, you know what? Maybe he does. We don't even see it.
He might have gotten killed.
Maybe when Chucky is crossing the city.
Yeah, I pray Chucky fucking just ran into him and fucking fucked him up.
He's like, strangle you with a jewelry, with a necklace. But so Maggie says that she'll babysit Andy for Karen.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, he's ecstatic about this new doll, Andy, and he learns that the doll calls himself Chucky. He says that he calls himself Chucky, which is, oh boy.
Creepy as hell.
Yes, absolutely it is. And so Maggie's watching him. It's Andy's bedtime. And like you said, Maggie finds Chucky sitting in front of the television, turned to a late night newscast about Charles Lee Ray.
Mm-hmm.
And this is after she already put Andy and him to bed. And so
I would say one of the first big scares of the movie is when Chucky's sitting in front of the TV again.
Yeah.
Kind of like a first big moment of like, what the fuck? Yeah.
How'd he get out here?
Yeah.
She returns the doll to the bed and she's pissed and she tells Andy that he needs to listen to her, but he says that he didn't put Chucky in front of the TV. And so she's creeped out a little bit now. She gets even more creeped out by some noises and stuff in a falling flour container. And this is when she gets hit in the head with a hammer. As you said, it's like this POV moment. It makes her stumble backwards out the window. And it's this really great shot as she falls in slow-mo through the snow. And then the truck crumples below her. Great stuff.
Again, just another, like, you're like, whoa, I can't believe this is, because it just shot so well where you see her hitting the hammer and then you see her fall backwards out the window. And then they cut to the reverse and you see her falling out the window.
Yeah.
And then you see a body hit, like you said, it like hits a truck or a car or whatever. And you're like, wow, that was filmed really, really, really well. A very effective death. So much so that it's the thumbnail on what I watched last night. The thumbnail was her falling out the window and like the shadow of Chucky's face, like in the background of the building.
Wow.
Yeah, here it is right here. That was the thumbnail of
look at that.
It's the building fall. But a great first death. It was funny to me that it was like the good guy hammer. I was like, that hammer fucking packs a punch, whatever, that was like with the good guy set or whatever. So
yeah, I like that it's not actually the thing that kills her. It's strong enough that it like shocks her and sends her stumbling backwards. But if she had managed to grab hold of something, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah, she was just kind of honestly a little bit clumsy.
Yeah. But Karen returns home later that night and she is greeted by a police barricade. She rushes in to find Detective Norris there, who seems to suspect Andy thanks to the footprints in the flour on the countertop.
Yes, the flour footprints, which is funny to suspect the kid took a hammer to the babysitter's head.
I mean, what are the other options, though?
I get you. You are right. I mean, by the way, Detective Mike Norris, he's the bad guy or the bad prince in Princess Bride.
That's right.
And he's the voice of Jack Skellington as well, which are some big credits.
Did not know that he was Jack Skellington. I love Nightmare Before Christmas.
A great one.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that Andy's dad was dead. We never really hear too much about that, right? He's just gone.
He's just gone.
Yeah. There's like a sad moment about like where with him and the like talking about the dad in heaven or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a little thing. It definitely feels like the kind of thing where like, well, we can't just not talk about it at all. Like,
yeah, that's, you know what? I wrote down the line. Andy says that Chucky is Charles Lee Ray was sent from heaven or something. Like
oh right.
He says like Daddy sent him from heaven or something. Fucked up.
Oh boy.
Which is great. Which is like filling in this thing of like this fucked up serial killer is like telling these lies to this kid, trying to explain why he's alive, which is great.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And so Andy tells the detective and his mom that it was Chucky up there, which everyone obviously dismisses. But that night, his mom is even more unsettled when he tells her that Chucky told him that he was really Charles Lee Ray. Again, like you said, sent by Andy's dad to play with him. Yes. And that Maggie got what she deserved, which is really fucked up.
And I believe he calls her. He also calls her. Right? Is that where he calls her a bitch or whatever?
Yeah.
And yeah, very unsettling. It doesn't. It's very fucked up.
Yeah. And she's really freaked out because he is insisting that this doll is alive for real.
And you know what? This is one of the moments where Andy, being that innocent little kid, works well. Yeah, it works really well. Yeah.
And so the next morning, Chucky convinces Andy to skip school. Loving Andy's jacket, by the way. Football and a star, peak design.
Oh, it rules. And him taking the L with Chucky fucking rules too.
Hell yeah. Yeah, no one questions him at all. He's just hanging on to this doll, taking the L downtown to Charles Lee Ray's partner Eddie's hideout. There we go. Finally got it. And the reason that he does this is because last night on the news, Chucky heard that he'd escaped police custody. This is when that other explosion happens. Chucky sneaks in and he kills him with this gas explosion in revenge, which is also another great like pyrotechnic stunt work.
Just a huge explosion. I mean, I got to tell Eddie. Also, they set this house up really well where you don't really see, you see Chucky's hand, which is kind of even the first time where you're like, oh, that's the doll's hand? Kind of. You can't be too sure, but he's moving through and they do the POV of Chucky, which is always great. And you're seeing this house, and this house is just like fucking rats in it. There's a bunch of rats in this house. But then this dude is just, Eddie never really truly sees Chucky. He just starts fucking firing his gun. Eddie is fucking paranoid, just fucking firing off his gun. And like you said, Chucky turns the gas up. Eddie opens the door and just fucking fires another one. He just is fucking firing this gun left and right. Eddie was a madman, and he went down because of it. He got incinerated.
He sure did. And so obviously the police are suspicious of this small child who just happens to be around two violent deaths. And so they take him into custody for questioning, and he starts getting violent with the Chucky doll to try and get him to talk, which this is something that I also really, really like, where it obviously would just like further cement their suspicions that the kid is actually the one doing it if he's getting violent here. But he's just getting desperate to try and get him to show that he is alive. I think it's great writing there.
Oh, that's great. And then of course he gets locked up. They just lock him up. By the way, the other detective, the besides Detective Norris, like the other guy, he's a screenwriter. He's like a writer actor. That other guy, he's fun. He's a fun character.
Yeah.
And he wrote 2018's The Grinch. That's what I saw as a credit for him. So that's wow. He's still up to it. He's
holding it down.
Certainly is.
And yeah, so Karen is sulking at home now that they've put Andy in this psychiatric hospital, and so she picks up Chucky's box, and this is where the batteries fall out.
Yeah, so good.
The implications are just so scary, and it like everything just like falls into place all at once. It's such a simple thing that works so effectively.
It's so well shot. Just the moments are just work. They work so well because there's a lot. This movie can feel like 80s at time, and there can be kind of quick cuts between things, but this whole segment works so well where those batteries fall out and they're good guys batteries, like the production, like the design on them are really great. And that realization in the music, and you're like, oh fuck. Yeah. Fuck. She sees these batteries, she's gonna fucking check.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. She checks the thing, she sees the compartment is empty. And I almost think it's scarier that before he like really loses his mind, he just does the iconic image of the head spinning around and saying, "Hi, I'm Chucky. Want to play?"
So fucking scary.
Oh,
that's
man.
So. I mean, and that to me is like, I love fun later Chucky, but that is just the scariest thing. The head twist and then falls down and rolls under the couch.
Yeah,
and you're like, just wrapping your head around seeing something like that. What the fuck would you do? What do you do?
I don't know, because she can't get him to do anything else either. Like he does this one thing, she drops him, and then she like starts like shaking him, and he won't do anything else. It is truly one of the scariest situations that I can imagine.
And it is like, you're like, oh, like Charles Lee Ray, like in that moment, it was you like, oh, I'm busted, and maybe I'll just act like a crazy doll, like I'm broken or something. Like maybe. What is he doing here? And then he threatens Chucky with the fire, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she says, I'm going to toss you in here And this finally gets a rise out of him, and he freaks out, and he comes to life. We get our first taste of Brad as Chucky, even though we've known. It's still kind of shocking to see him come to life so realistically and start screaming about, I'll teach you to mess with me, you fucking bitch. Like,
it's like, insane. Whoa. Yes. He's immediately so fucking hostile, and yeah, I'll fucking kill you, and fucking biting her. He's biting her and punching
down and
her
dirty.
And shit. It's insane. And then he escapes, he leaves a nasty bite on her arm. He leaves a fucked up bite.
Yeah, well, I mean, her perfectly understandable reaction is to hurl this fucking doll as far as she can.
And it's her. This is great here too, because she like throws it, and then she's like, "Holy shit! Like, I need to get this doll," and like the doll kind of scurries away, and she's like, "What do I need to like still have this doll?" And she kind of goes chasing after it, but she loses it.
Right. He makes it into the elevator while she's having to run down all these stairs and everything.
Yep, it's great.
It is great. And so she heads to the police, and they don't believe her any more than they did Andy.
Yep.
So she's like, all right, I'm going to go find the guy who sold me this doll.
Mm-hmm.
He tries to coerce her into giving him money for the info, but she doesn't have anything to give him. And so he starts gearing up to assault her.
Yes, there's an attempted assault, which probably should have not been in the movie. This moment is not a great moment.
No, it's not ideal.
It feels very much an 80s thing of it's scary homeless people. You know, that's kind of the vibe of that entire scene. There's another moment of that too when so that moment hasn't aged well, of course, but there's another. I fucking pulled my my mic out. I was so excited talking about Chucky.
Yeah, folks, that's how into it we're getting here.
Fuck, maybe my Zoom is my audio devices maybe is possessed by Charles Lee Ray. There's a possibility.
A strong possibility. You heard us talking about him.
A very strong possibility that my Zoom is recorded is haunted by Charles Lee Ray.
This tonight you're just gonna hear, "Hi, I'm Zoomy. Want to play?"
I think I'd just be like, I'm just gonna throw you in the trash. Can't really move, Zoom. You possess the wrong thing.
It just like jiggles a little bit.
Yeah. Which is funny. I mean, he was lucky a good guy doll was in there, because there's nothing scarier than that. I don't know what other toy he would have been able to pull this off.
A thing of marbles. He's just rolling around tripping people.
Yeah. Oh shit. That's kind of scary too.
But so this peddler reveals that he got it from a burned out toy store. Mm. And this shakes Detective Mike, who admits that that's where Charles Lee Ray got killed. And so she tries to warn him that Chucky is going to go for him next. He starts believing a little bit here. You can see him start being like, maybe there is something here, which I would too. I mean, like, right? If you heard this, would you be like, well, wait a minute, what the fuck's going on? This little kid couldn't have just made this shit up, right? Especially back then. I like that he does start to believe it then, but he also isn't like fully on board yet, because he drops her off at the apartment, and then he's like, I'm going to go pull these files, and I'm going to go like do a little more investigation. And this is when he gets back into the car, and Chucky finally pops up from behind him and starts to strangle him. Which is also great, which is like, you know, you're working with this little robot doll, and it's like, yeah, get Chucky to strangle someone from behind in a car. It feels like it works. But they do a lot of fun stuff even in the car. And I know that Chucky, like, he strangles people, I think Chucky, like, killing people or like going after people in cars, it happens quite a bit, because I think it must work well with the puppeteers. Yeah, and stuff like that. He's tiny. He can get in on the like pedals and stuff, which he does in this. That was one of my favorite moments when he pushes down on the gas and a little bit during this fight. But he's like, she's poking the knife through the back of the seat, and then he pokes it up in the middle between Mike's crotch. Yeah. Basically, he's going all over the place, which is great. Yeah, it's honestly pretty terrifying to imagine being in those shoes, because gets loose from the choking by melting some of Chucky's face with the car's cigarette lighter, which those don't even exist anymore. So good luck fighting off a Chucky these days. That moment rules when he burns his face with it too, and like you see that it's like kind of melts up, and he's like, it's like causing him pain, so it's like kind of working. It's fucked up. It's awesome. Yeah, I like that a lot. And then, like you said, he starts stabbing the kitchen knife into the back of the driver's seat, misses him by like inches. This is really, really great, really scary stuff. And of course, he's trying to drive the whole time as well.
And yeah, and another crazy kind of like action-y like stunt set piece here where he's driving around the streets of Chicago all crazy. I want to say that also right here is the first time we ever get the like maniacal Chucky laugh where he's kind of having, where he's like where he's like having fun,
right?
You know, like that kind of that classic Chucky laugh. We get the first version of it here. I did a horrible impression of it, but you get it.
you know out there, you know what it sounds like.
You know what it sounds like.
And you know, he does finally get him to crash the car. He flips the car again. Great stunt work.
Yep.
And Chucky is like taunting him as he like runs around the car. It's really just more great stuff, and
it's awesome. Running around the car stuff. It just rules, and it's so scary. Seeing his legs fucking run by, it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what you were talking about before, where it's like the stuff about him moving on his own, like the little bits, is very creepy and it's very effective. But these moments where he is running and like fully alive are the moments that really stick with you, because it's so past the realm of like, oh, well, I could maybe talk myself out of being scared of the doll like moving its head a little bit. This thing is going crazy now.
It's that sort of thing in like the Muppet movie when you see Kermit. Not that this is scary, but when you see Kermit, no one is scared at this moment. I'm not revealing that I was terrified when I saw this moment, but when Kermit is riding the bike and you see like
terrifying.
a full puppet, you see like the full puppet riding the bike, and you're like, or the Muppet, and you're like, wow, holy shit, this looks fucking cool.
Yeah.
And then to see like his little feet scamper around, it looks great. Yeah, and when you're like you're saying, when he's really tooling around, you're like, oh man, this guy's quick. He's a quick little fucking monster. He's terrifying.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's a really great example of the Muppet movie. I think that any time that they're able to sort of pull something off like that, though, not only is it just like scary in moments like this, but it is just impressive from like a props work standpoint. Like,
oh yeah,
another that bicycle scene is incredible. Also when he is like the cowboy and he's just like standing there on his own 2 feet, that's another incredible moment where you're like, wow, how are they even doing this?
It looks and it like brings a weird believability to the movies, you know what I mean? Like you believe that. I'm like, hey, yeah, Kermit's doing that, he's standing there, that's Kermit.
Hell yeah,
it rules.
And Detective Mike manages to get a shot off into Chucky's shoulder, which does make him run away.
Yeah.
And so the next day,
he feels some more pain.
Right.
Which, by the way, at this scene here, one of my questions was like, and I do wonder if there was ever a version of this, but or if maybe if they would do this nowadays. But I was like, Mike could have died. There's a world where like Mike could have died in this movie, and it probably would have been right there.
Yeah.
Though obviously he comes around and but at the end you could have had
anyone, the detective partner or whatever,
the other partner, or even just Andy and his mom.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if like nowadays he would have just gotten fucking shot here. But I like that he stays alive. I like Mike. Detective Norris is a nice guy.
Yeah, it is an interesting character. I think that the fact that he is willing to sort of accept what's happening, it makes him a little more interesting than someone who might be similar in movies that have come out over the years. But I like him as well. I'm happy that he stays alive.
Yeah, and right after this, we get to see one of the most insane things in the movie, which is Charles Lee Ray's apartment.
This apartment is fucking wild. Karen goes there and she is just staring in disbelief at the paintings on the walls depicting voodoo rituals and everything. It is just, he put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, so Charles Lee Ray, he like painted this stuff on his wall of like his friend who's into voodoo, like teaching him how to cheat death, basically. Like I think he maybe even writes those words on the wall or something like that. But that that's what he did. Charles Lee Ray did this himself. He drew this on the wall.
He didn't want to forget. Look, if someone gave you the secret to escaping death, you'd be like, I am making sure that I never forget any part of this.
And then it's really crazy. I mean, one, that this guy's friends with him, but I mean, we'll get into this guy too. But the guy is not happy when he sees Chucky, because Chucky sees him and shortly after this.
Yeah.
And Yeah.
Well, I like that we also get like a fun fake out here in this apartment where like a shadowy figure comes up behind Karen while she's staring at these walls, and you're like, oh shit, who is this? Because it's too big for Chucky. But it's just Mike. It's Detective Mike. He believes her
Mike
now.
now knows. All it took was Chucky trying to stab him in his car, and he now is on board.
And he is the one who tells her about Chucky's voodoo teacher, which is John Dr. Death Bishop, who is conveniently being visited by Chucky right now.
Dr. Death, there should be a Dr. Death prequel. I want to know more about Dr. Death. Because he seems to be really mad at Charles Lee Ray. He's like, you're an abomination or whatever. It's just like, well, you taught him how to cheat death.
Right. What did you think was going to happen?
You knew this guy sucked. So what's the deal? Yeah.
Yeah, so Mike he's telling her that he found this information. He wants to go check out the doctor, but Chucky wants to know why he's able to feel pain and even bleed despite being a doll. Mm-hmm. And so Dr. Death explains that the more time he spends in the doll, the more human he will become. And so Chucky demands that John help him reverse the spell, but he chastises him for perverting all that he taught him about voodoo, which is interesting, sort of like, you taught him how to do this, and then he did it, and that's the bad part.
There might have been some stuff with Dr. Death that was cut. I couldn't tell, but like, yeah, it is confusing. What you were friends with this guy, weren't you? But he seems very anti-Chucky.
Yeah,
and
this is why we need that prequel. We need the backstory.
I thought you might have said that, and then he has a fucking voodoo doll, which is like a crazy death, but also is a pretty fun death to see here, where he starts breaking his arms and his arm and his leg.
It's definitely the most over the top so far, and
yes,
I like it a lot. It is very fun. It is also pretty gruesome. Like the arm.
It's definitely gruesome. That's my exact note. It's gruesome when his arm and legs break. It's gruesome. It's a gruesome moment.
Great minds think alike.
Truly.
And so now that he's in this agony, Chucky is threatening to kill him. And Dr. Death tells him that to escape the doll, he has to transfer his soul to the first human that he revealed his true self to, which is obviously Andy.
Yep. I'm going to be a 6-year-old boy again, is what he says.
He gets a whole new lease on life.
Which is also, it's funny. Yeah. I mean, like he doesn't seem as bummed out about it as you think he would be.
He probably is like, oh, I'm going to get away with so much stuff. No one's going to believe that this kid is the one being a serial killer. But, one thing I really like is that Chucky does stab the voodoo doll and kill Dr. Death. He betrays him. He goes back on his word of saying, like, oh, I'm going to kill you unless you do this. I like that he's like, no, I'm a fucking serial killer. Like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And he escapes, and Karen and Mike arrive shortly after, but unfortunately a little too late because John is dying there. Mm-hmm. But he tells them that Chucky is going for Andy, and that although Chucky is a doll, his heart is human enough to leave him vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. They got to destroy the heart. Which, by the way, to just go back 1 second, if you break into Charles Lee Ray's house and you see that you're painted on his wall, just know that doesn't keep you safe. He'll still fucking kill you.
Yeah.
Someone that he painted on his own wall, still not good enough for him. He'll fucking destroy you. He'll use a voodoo doll and he'll stab you in the heart. Charles Lee Ray is ruthless. He doesn't give a shit about anybody.
He really is kind of interesting that like he has all these compatriots. Mm-hmm. But he's so willing to sort of cast them off. And I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it shows that serial killer side of him, which it's weird because like Eddie, like I was saying, some of that stuff just like makes him seem like kind of like, oh, these guys like bank robbery, kind of like trying to steal money guys. They feel more like that instead of like a serial killer who really works alone, you know. But him offing these guys does show that fucked up serial killer side.
He was just waiting for his moment. But Andy sees Chucky arrive at the hospital. Like this is the scene we were talking about earlier, where it's really, really freaky to see him running over.
Yep.
The scene is so effective. This is one of the moments where, again, him being a believable child instead of a great actor is really the effective part of it, because he's just sitting there like sobbing with snot all over his face, just repeating, "Please don't kill me." Like, it's so hard not to feel bad for him there.
Oh, definitely. Yes. No, that's this whole hospital scene is great. And like you said, the outdoor stuff, and it just cuts together really well. And Andy, who eventually tricks Chucky, but you are like, oh, fuck, poor Andy.
Yeah.
You feel bad for little Andy. You care about this kid. He's a likable kid.
Yeah, and the past 3 days have been hell for this guy. His aunt died. He's accused of it. He's in the psychiatric hospital now.
There is a funny line where Catherine Hicks is talking to Mike Norris. This is a little bit before, when she's trying to convince him, and she's like, "When I bought that doll yesterday," and you're like, "Oh yeah, it hasn't even been like a full day." They've had the doll for it's been like a day and a half, and all this crazy shit has happened.
It's wild.
Yeah.
But he does manage to escape Chucky's first attempt at killing him, though, by escaping his room. Mm-hmm. But Chucky drops on him in the operating theater.
Yep.
And the doctor comes in, he attempts to sedate Andy, and he gets killed by Chucky for his trouble via tendon slicing and then brutal electrocution. This is another really fun death scene.
This is a great death, and this doctor, like the guy who works in the department store,
earned it.
This doctor is like so set up to be like, this doctor is fucked. Which is why I'm still shocked that the department guy store. I'm gonna write some fan fiction about the department store guy, but there's when he slices his Achilles or his whatever he gets his tendon there and he falls down. You see Chucky's feet scurry there too, like around his head.
Yep.
And it's great and creepy looking. And then he just he fries the shit out of this guy. He really fucking fries this guy. This guy, where his face is turning starts turning to ash, basically. It's insane.
It's great. It's really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy escapes while this is happening. I like that, the thing that lets Andy get away is Chucky just being so caught up in killing someone else that he loses track of him.
He enjoys the killings, which is very funny.
Yeah.
Andy makes it back to the apartment, and then there's a great scene.
Dude, that one-handed bat swing is pretty impressive for a doll.
I was gonna say, there's the funniest scene in the movie. To me, the funniest Chucky comes right before this, where Andy has escaped to the apartment, and then there's an old couple on the elevator, and Chucky's just laying there, and the woman says she sees Chucky, and she's like, "Oh, what an ugly doll." And then they get off the elevator, and then the elevator goes up, and you hear Chucky go, "Fuck you." a big long drawn out "fuck you." It's like such a funny. That's maybe as funny as he gets in this movie.
Yeah, it's a great moment. That's the kind of thing also that they were just like, this would be fun if someone commented on it. They didn't have to I bet that when they were cutting stuff down, they were like, do we need this elevator scene? And someone had to fight for it, and I'm glad they did.
Oh, it's great. It works great in there. And then, like you said, just moments later, we're back to Scary Chucky when he falls down the chimney. It looks so cool and good. And then when he fucking whacks Andy with a baseball bat, it's insane.
Oh boy, it's
this little child.
He knocks Andy right the fuck out.
Yeah, Jesus.
Chucky starts doing the transfer ritual, but Karen and Mike arrive in the nick of time. And so Chucky slices Mike's leg with the knife as well. Mm-hmm. Goes to kill him. Sweet revenge at last. This is a big moment for Chucky. But Karen shoots Chucky's leg, then throws him in the fireplace. And she's holding him there, and this is when Andy gets his Schwarzenegger one-liner. He says, it is kind of set up. It is weird that they're it feels a little out of place for him to have a one-liner, but it is set up in that Chucky is like, hey,
he's tortured this kid. Oh yeah, no, yeah. I mean, he's tortured Andy, and you're right. Yeah, Chucky pleads with him. He's like,
hey, don't do it. We're friends till the end.
Friends to the end, which is great. And he's saying it more in the Charles Lee Ray voice.
Right.
But I was gonna say, Chucky's just always fucking biting at Catherine Hicks. It's so scary when he's just he's punching and biting everything. He's just such a little fucking
scrapper.
Such a little scrapper. And then he gets tossed before he gets in the fireplace. He gets tossed and he jumps up with his knife, and it looks so cool. There's so much cool looking stuff at the end here.
Yeah.
And he just it's horrifying, but also it's that sort of thing of we've seen the monster now. The monster's out in the open.
Yeah.
but it still looks really great. And also, I want to say this quickly to go back to the transfer of his soul into Andy's. It's like, I don't know if that's a language that he's speaking or if that's supposed to be like, whatever, like he's doing this voodoo spell. But it is funny to me that there's like he's seemingly speaking this other language, but then also he's like, "Give me the power, I beg of you." You still do hear one line that is in plain English that you get that he's like calling to some gods to transfer his soul over, which is, it's great that he does that throughout the rest of the movies, right? Give me the power, I beg of you, is like you hear that over and over again as the series goes on.
Yeah, I love it. And I think that's another example of sort of like the Father sending him from heaven line, where they do a really good job of sort of filling in just enough to make sure that you understand without having to sit there and exposition you to death.
Yeah.
The one method of death that Chucky has not done.
Also, I feel like, you know what? I'm throwing out alts and stuff, and there was an alt where Chucky could have possessed Andy at the end. Like, that's could have been how the movie ended.
He made the move, yeah.
He made the move, but I love everything. I love how this movie plays out in every way. But we're at the fireplace, and Andy's tosses in his match.
Yeah, he does, and there's so much fire. Like,
oh yeah,
he really ignites.
And Chucky's just is fucking screaming like crazy. Mm-hmm. He's going off, which is it's awesome. Him running around on fire rules.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great, and you think that it's all over, and so they all go to help Mike. But as Dr. Death said, the only way to kill him is through the heart. And so we get another chase scene, again, very grotesque, with this burnt up Chucky as he's running around. It's so good looking.
Oh, the burnt Chucky is fucking the best. It's first they reveal when Andy sees that he's gone, and then when you finally, I mean, you see the burnt Chucky before that, which is gnarly, but then the reveal of living burnt Chucky, he's so fucking cool looking.
Yeah, yeah.
And him walking towards Andy like all burnt is just, it's iconic. It's so
absolutely
good.
It's incredible. And again, this is the sort of thing where it's like, if they didn't have that budget, like, you're just not sure that this sort of thing would come off believably. It would really sort of be a detriment to this movie. And the fact that they managed to execute these incredible set pieces that are not even the set pieces, but just like stunt pieces and prop pieces that are just so incredible. This is the kind of thing that makes it stick in people's mind. Ultimately, if it had just been a movie about a talking doll, still probably would have been really scary, but I don't know that it would have found as much of a foothold outside of people who had seen it young if it hadn't had these incredible moments.
Agreed. And we get some more good stuff with like The Shining. Chucky kind of pulling a Shining, stabbing. He's like stabbing through the door.
Yeah. With
Catherine Hicks, and he gets her hand too. He fucking stabs her hand, which is
incredible that she still manages to make the shot when he gets her arm. But she does manage to shoot Chucky to pieces.
It's awesome.
And so Mike's partner, Jack, that's the other guy's name. He arrives at the apartment, and after he sees Mike wounds, he calls for an ambulance. And he asks them what happened, and Mike tells him that it was the doll, but Jack refuses to believe it, obviously. And so, double fake out. We thought Chucky had finally been killed. He instead bursts through the vent and tries to kill Jack by strangling him.
Fucking awesome. It's so great. The head on the TV. The head on the TV, like the burnt head on the TV, and Jack seeing Chucky be alive. It is so great that you're like, oh man, it's just like this little nub of Chucky is still alive.
Right.
And until that heart, you got to hit the heart.
Got to hit the heart. And Karen pulls Chucky's body off him, throws it across the room. Mike shoots Chucky in the heart, finally killing him for real. As the voice transitions, this is a nice moment where it pitches up to the normal good guy voice.
I'm Chucky, wanna play? And that goes back to normal. So
great. So
good. So good. And also, by the way, hitting the heart and the explosion from the heart is fucking great too. Just the explosion like of blood it leaves on like the wall and curtain is so good.
Yeah, I love that a lot. And, Mike asks Jack if he believes him now, to which Jack replies, yeah, but who's going to believe me? And it really is this kind of thing of like, These three, there are so many deaths littering the city, and no one is going to believe in these three.
Yeah, what what is this weird conspiracy? That is wild. I mean, and you get that sense. He delivers that line really well, where he's like we're fucked, and now I'm a part of this shit. I wish I'd never seen this. This sucks.
Yeah.
Who would want to see it? It would destroy my world. I wouldn't want to see that some fucking doll came to life. It's terrifying.
Absolutely. I mean, you can see it on Andy's face when he takes one last look at Chucky, clearly traumatized by everything that's happened. And
a very 80s freeze frame ending that we get.
Yes, I agree. Although, it is the sort of freeze frame ending where you do wonder if they were like, well, maybe if we get a sequel, Andy will be the killer this time.
Yes, yeah. No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
The movie is so good. I love the movie. It truly terrified me as a child, but I think people don't take it seriously as a horror film. I think that they think of, I think Chucky's kind of like a laughable character, but he's supposed to be like hokey later on. He's supposed to be kind of a fun, when the movies get campy, he's supposed to be kind of like a fun comedic killer later on. But this first movie and I really enjoy some of the second, Child's Play 2. There's a lot of great moments in the second. The toy factory in Child's Play 2 is so great. All the stuff in the good guy factory to be specific is so good. All that stuff rules. But this movie's a lot better than I think people give it credit for or even realize. It's just really well done. And like you're saying, the animatronics and that budget, which is a little higher, it leads to that. Because if you read the script of this or whatever, you're like, what is this? This is all over the place. This is crazy. But it works. The movie works. It works great.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And now, Mitch, we've reached the point of the show where we sum up why this is not just a good horror movie, but why it is, in fact, the best horror movie ever made. And I'm going to let you kick it off.
Well, I think the reason that this is the best horror movie ever made is because it put the fear into children. I mean, Freddy and Jason are scary, but it just takes that thing of a child's doll, something so you would never think about ever coming to life and stabbing you to death. These things that you just take for granted, and these things that you love, these big toy stores, these My Buddy dolls, and just corrupting them completely, and that's what's terrifying to me about it. I think it works so well in that Chucky was up there with Freddy and Jason, who were the Freddy and Jason in the 80s. Those are the two top dogs, and Michael Myers too, but 70s.
Yeah, we already had his time in the sun.
He had his time, but and Freddy Krueger, and then it's like this little doll. This little doll is among the icons of horror, and just playing on that thing, the fear of a child, which even look, Freddy Krueger, he comes after teenage kids. Jason, he comes after teenage kids. They usually there's I know that there's younger campers in in the Friday the 13th movies that they never harm, like in like I don't know in
only in part 6. Only in part 6.
It's part 6. That's what it is. Okay, and so like this is the real threat of a sweet child dying and his soul being taken over by this serial killer forever, and it's fucked up and terrifying. It's the thing that you like everyone fears of, like an innocent kid. And like I said, corrupting the things that they hold dear and that they think are safe. Yeah. And for that reason, I mean, just as a kid, it built that fear into me. But when you think about old dolls, like my fucking grandma had a doll that she wanted to give my sister that's like 100 years old. Fucking terrifying. And there is something to seeing things like that of these lifeless things in them having life. Something given life that did not have life before, which is a terrifying concept. And that's why it's the fucking best horror movie of all time. That's why Chucky is still at Universal Horror Nights in LA and in Florida. Why Chucky still has a big role. And look, he becomes funnier later on. The movies get more campy. But in this first one, seeing him scamper around and that idea of like, who's killing people? It's a doll, and then seeing that be real, that fear realized of like, oh my God, it is real, and now I'm getting stabbed by the doll and I'm dying, or I'm getting hit with a hammer in the head and I'm dying. That shit is terrifying. It's great.
Yeah, I totally agree. To me, this is the best horror movie ever made because of that subversion that you're kind of alluding to. I think that Freddy nightmares are already scary. And sleepaway camp, you know, for a kid, you're away from your parents, you're maybe spending time by yourself for the first time, away from them. That's also scary. But this is subverting something that is supposed to be very safe. This is the inversion of what children hang on to dolls for security. And for them to take that security away from you is really, really incredible.
And it's great that it is just like put in this like big corporate it could be anywhere, it could be any doll in America, it could be in any house in America. Just this fucking stupid doll. And especially when you're like, yeah, those dolls are like lifeless, they're lifeless like that. And even sometimes when they do like the like, oh, they do bring them to life when they move their head around and they play their stupid recordings. And then to see Charles Lee Ray take over them and when he's Chucky and the head turns around and it's like that twisted, that moment right there where Catherine Hicks sees him and he rolls onto the couch. That to me is like one of the scariest things ever in horror movies. And I know that a lot of it comes from childhood, but that's where a lot of our fears come from.
Hell yeah.
It's those childhood fears.
Kinder trauma. That's what they call it.
It works. It
sure
stuck
does.
with me.
And I also love that Don Mancini has talked about how he doesn't condescend to horror. He really loves it. And I think that is on display because you can sometimes tell when someone is making a horror movie just because it's usually more effective to make with a low budget than some of the other genres. And, you know, they just think that they might be able to make a cheap buck off of a horror movie. But with Don, I think he really does love it. And having a lasting icon made between Brad and Don working on this, I think it couldn't have happened to a nicer group of people. Listening to them on the commentary track that I listened to was just so fun. They're such nice guys. And that's what makes this the best horror movie ever made.
I agree. There's a lot to that point of that these guys are still making these movies and they still care about these movies, which like in our, you know, in the world of in show business and in the film industry, the idea that these guys care about their property and care about their fans and care about the cult around Chucky, the cult of Chucky. they care about that stuff, and that fucking rules. What I mean, like it's that sort of thing of Wes Craven, rest in peace. If like he was still making the Nightmare movies and still, you know what I mean, like still was like, I care about what people think about this. I care what the fans think about it. I mean, he's no longer with us, but you get what I'm saying. Just the fact that it spans over 20 years is incredible. Is wild. It's wild, yeah.
Absolutely. And Mitch, I mean, this was so much fun. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, over 30 years, by the way. It's how long has it now? It's God, Chucky's going to be 40 years old in like 5 years. Yeah. That's fucking crazy. That
is crazy. And you know what? I'm looking forward to the TV show. So
me too. Me too. I'm happy that I got to. I'm happy that I finally got to do this, man. I love Chucky. I love Child's Play 2. And yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next. I feel like I would love to see that version if that's what the TV show is like.
Yeah.
To see like the kind of the scary version of little glimpses of Chucky and Chucky running around. That will be fun. Little chaos Chucky.
Yeah, I hope that it's good, and I think it will be. But why don't you tell the people where they can listen to your show? I love Doughboys. I highly encourage people to go check it out.
Oh, thank you, dude.
Yeah, tell them all about it. You got some big news coming up too, right?
Yeah, we got the Doughathon. We got the Doughathon is May 1st. Which is a 25-hour live stream we're doing for charity, which is a lot of fun. And the podcast is Doughboys, which is you can find it anywhere you find podcasts. And then we got the Doughboys Double, which is on Patreon, which you can subscribe to for a few bucks a month. And yeah, that's it. I got nothing else.
Go check out the Doughathon. I'm really looking forward to it myself. So
yeah. Oh, and Tomorrow War, July 2nd comes out. July 2nd. That's a movie I'm excited about. Which is actiony and should be it should be scary too. So I'm excited for people to see it.
Hell yeah. I can't wait to see it. And as far as my plugs, you can find me on Twitter at LittleHorrorPHL. The show also has a Patreon. We do bonus episodes, early and ad-free episodes. We're doing a watch-along of The X-Files, which is my first time watching. So if you like The X-Files and you want to chime in over there, just sign up for the Best Little Horror House in Philly Patreon. And rate and review if you're enjoying the show. That's it. Thanks again, Mitch.
Thank you, dude.
All right, everyone. Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye.